Welcome to Ideas for Impact, the channel all about sustainability in business. In this video, we're going to be covering an important topic that any business needs to be looking at in order to make genuine impact in the world: how to avoid greenwashing. Look, in a world where more consumers want sustainable products and services and honesty, the temptation to look green can lead some companies to make misleading claims. But in the long run, authenticity always matters the most. And today we're going to be covering 7 steps to make sure that your company builds that genuine sustainable practice that you can actually share with your consumers and build trust with them. First up, you need to start with real impact goals. You need to get clear on what those impact goals are, because a lot of greenwashing actually happens when companies focus on marketing green without actually defining what that means for them or what they want to achieve with that from a sustainability perspective. And so instead of vague terms like eco-friendly or natural, you need to think through specific ways that your company can make a real impact, and how is that aligned with your business objectives and your overall core identity as a company. Are you reducing waste? Are you sourcing responsibly? Are you lowering emissions? Those are really important questions to ask. And so by setting concrete goals around that, you're going to make it easier for yourself to show progress and hopefully avoid any kind of misleading claims. So for example, you're creating a product and you want to set a goal to reduce packaging by, let's say, 50% over the next 2 years. Not only is this specific and measurable, but it's also something that you can show forward to your customers, and that also shows that you're committed to a meaningful long-term impact, not just, a short-term gain. The second tactic: be transparent about your processes. Transparency is your best defense against any kind of washing, greenwashing, impact washing, social justice washing, you name it. Being transparent is critical. You got to share your progress openly. Let your customers and other audience members see the journey that you're on, right? Including both the good and the bad. If you're sourcing materials from somewhere, explain where those materials are coming from and what sustainability criteria you're actually using to evaluate your strategic partners and your suppliers. If your product has a carbon footprint, be totally upfront about what that footprint actually is and how you plan to reduce it over, a period of time, over the next year, over the next 2 years, etc. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Sustainability, there's no perfection in any area. And customers will respect that honesty. They realize that. For example, if you're in the early stages of sourcing sustainable materials, but you haven't quite sort of achieved that yet, haven't achieved those partnerships or found the right material or product, you need to be open about it. Sharing that journey and an experience can be amazing for your customers, can actually position you well in the market. So sharing your progress actually shows not only that you're committed to real sustainable progress and ongoing improvement, but that you're actually trying to hopefully also bring impact to the sector or industry or category that you're in. And overall, that does build massive, massive points with your consumer base. Third, you need to avoid vague language and buzzwords. This is where consumers have become so savvy. They sort of get when you're trying to use or placate language that's vague or buzzy or even scientific without any evidence, right? So buzzwords like green, eco-friendly, and natural have been overused everywhere, where they've almost lost a lot of meaning with consumers. And they can often lead to confusion and misinterpretation about what it is you're actually doing, about what the sustainability or circularity or purpose behind it actually is. And the worst part about this is, because it's so vague, it opens up the door to more and more greenwashing and misunderstanding about the work you do, how you do it, the sustainability of your products and services. So instead, Be as specific as possible. If you're reducing waste, you got to say that. Say by how much and what kind of waste. If you're sourcing sustainably, make sure you're explaining that, what that actually looks like. What does that mean to your business? The more details you give, the more authentic your message actually is, because you're opening up sort of the veil, or behind the veil, for consumers or other external audience members to see and understand what is happening in your business. So instead of saying something like environmentally friendly packaging, you maybe want to be more specific and say, this was made 100% compostable, or maybe 50% post-consumer recycled materials, whatever that is for you. Be specific, give it a number, and give it context. So clarity, specificity, all makes a difference, and actually helps you reduce that possibility of having any kind of greenwashing in your marketing and communication efforts. Number 4, you need to back up claims with certifications and or data, right? These things can work in tandem on their own, or a lot of the times they actually work together. So this is a great way to actually avoid greenwashing, is to actually have a third party certify your products, your services, your company, and even through that, your data, because that allows you to actually have support and validity for the claims that you're making. For instance, certifications like Fair Trade, Organic, or B Corp, provide credible standards that demonstrate real commitment to sustainability, and consumers sort of understand what those are and what they stand for. These aren't just like labels you're going to put on your product. They're actually verified by these independent organizations. So consumers know that they can trust you because they can trust that certification. But you have to be selective. You can't just pick like all the certifications out there. What's actually relevant to your business? What's relevant to the type of product and or maybe category that you're in? What are those certifications that are going to prove that the product you're creating or the processes that your product is being created through are sustainable? So you have to have some thinking about that, and how they can actually align with your specific impact goals as well. So as you'll see, all of these things start to be interconnected. So for instance, if your product is plastic free, you might think about, okay, how can I validate that? I might want to look at some kind of a certification that's related to plastic reduction validation, and that can be useful on your packaging, right? If you're focusing on ethical labor, maybe you're looking into things like fair trade or similar standards. And at the end of the day, like there's data involved in certification always, and you can share that, and share where that data came from and how you managed it and how you tracked it. But in the event that you can't get a certification, you're too early, you're a startup, or perhaps you're still trying to figure out how to build that product or service, really think about how can you use real data and the progress you're making in a way that's easily shareable. So a good example here is something like a carbon footprint or waste reduction stats that you can easily measure yourself and put out there in the world and have it verified by a third party, but it isn't a certification. It's sort of like, this is the footprint of this business. So really be thinking about that. The 5th one, okay? Again, we're going to keep you honest. You got to keep your marketing honest too, and consistent with that honesty. Consumers look for that. Your marketing should definitely reflect the reality of your practices, not just like the ideal that you might want to be. It's not that green company that or product that you're going to have in 5 years' time. You got to the marketing has to reflect what your product is capable of doing now. You need to really avoid overselling or exaggerating those achievements, because they can truly backfire for you. They can lead to terrible consumer, feedback, negative call outs, certainly greenwashing, etc. It can mislead consumers in many different ways that can, not work in your favor in the long run. So, if you're making strides towards reducing your carbon footprint, And don't market your product as carbon neutral, because it certainly isn't. You're on the path, you have a carbon footprint, but you're very, very far from being carbon neutral. Most companies are. And instead share that you're working towards reducing your emissions and how you're doing that, and the percentage that you're looking to reduce your emissions by, and what you're doing in the meantime, things like carbon offsets or tracking, etc. So being honest is critical, than sort of putting out giant grand claims that have absolutely no validity and aren't backed up and actually aren't really reflective or true of your current situation. Okay, number 6, what do you think it is? It's embracing continuous improvement. You're going to hear this from us over and over. Sustainability is not a destination, it is a journey that we're all on. Nobody's perfect and no one's getting to the end point. This is going to be always ways we can improve, because there's so many different elements to being a sustainable company. And it's okay if you're not perfect in sustainability in every area or any area. Nobody really is. Even the Patagonias and Dr. Bronners of the world are continuing to work towards making things better. See, the key is to demonstrate a commitment to that continuous improvement, not just like a one-time gain. So, set timelines, track progress, update your audiences and your consumers about what is happening in your business and how you're learning and evolving. Because this not only is good for yourself as a business on a path to sustainability, but it also builds trust. It also shows that you're willing to grow and improve over time. And the best way to actually show continuous improvement is to be publishing a regular sustainability or impact report. Even if they're brief, one pagers on your website. You want to share where you're getting to with your goals, how your work is progressing, what you're doing, what your perhaps important focus areas or priorities might be any given time. And that way also customers feel and your audiences feel like they're part of that journey, right? They're part of that process. And that builds credibility for you and for that relationship that you're building with your consumers. 7, certainly not least, but last on this list, is getting engaged and listening to feedback. You need to be open to feedback, and you need to listen to feedback, and you need to act on that feedback. The customers are so savvy, and many will be watching closely to what you're doing if they're actually your customer. Are you living up to the claims that you are saying or putting out there publicly? So make sure to invite feedback from your consumers and listen to what they're coming up with in terms of their concerns or issues or things that aren't working for them. Engaging in that conversation around sustainability practices will help build that trust and enable you to actually build a better company, build a better product or service, and certainly build a better relationship that's loyal, a better long-standing relationship with your customers. And you know what? If you receive criticism, everybody does. Treat it as an opportunity to improve. We can only get better, right? This type of transparency and responsiveness will go a long way in building that loyalty and that trust. And remember, this isn't just for that external audience. Folks that are internal to your organization see this as well. Your employees, your interns, your investors, whoever that may be. So this is a long-term gain. And it really is about building a company that is a good company. So to wrap up this really important topic that I want all of you to remember, we can all avoid greenwashing. And it is about really taking an inward look about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we can actually craft an honest, real story about our sustainability journey. Because we want to build a trustworthy brand that external audiences like our customers believe in, are loyal to, want to share. And that starts internally though. So remember, this sustainability journey is a journey. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon that we're all going to be on together. And your customers might want to be on that journey with you. The ones that really believe in your brand will be. So again, big important topic. We want to hear what you're doing about greenwashing. Have you employed any strategies, policies, processes? Have you learned a hard lesson where maybe you unintentionally were greenwashing? Please share that in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, to like, to comment. We'd love to share more tips, more learnings, more strategies with you. We hope you build an amazing impact-driven business. See you next time.